In this video tutorial, we're going to demonstrate how to download and install the Touch7 Photo Neon plugin. And the same process applies for the ECG plugin, so if you are watching this, you can apply the same methodology to the Neon plugin. So just to explain this, on the Touch7 website, go to Touch7 Neon, and then down here you'll see download demo plugin, so you can download it from the home page. On the right hand side of the screen there are some other navigation buttons, so there'll be a user manual, a tutorial video, which is what you'll be watching today, some literature you can print off, and some test files. But I'm going to assume that you basically downloaded and installed the plugin already. It's very simple, just follow the installation guidelines that you have with the installer plugin itself. Okay, so if you're working on a Mac with the M1 chip, you need to open up Photoshop in Rosetta mode. Please do look at our FAQ section for things like that, because it's very important. If you do not see the extensions menu, like I said, go to the FAQ section. Anything that's ever been asked or any technical issue that's ever happened is in the FAQ section. So we're going to assume that you've got it. You can see the extension menu and you can then see the Touch7 Photo plugin. So we're going to open up the Neon plugin. Now, I'm just going to pin mine up here. The very first time you open yours, you will see the screen looking like so. It's very important that you follow the instructions correctly, which basically means do one step at a time. Do not put your email address and your serial number in at the same time. It will not work. You must do one step at a time. So, step 1, enter your email address and click the send button. That will send your email address to a license server, which will then activate, or basically creates an account and activates the account for you, send you an automated email with what's called an activation code, which you can then paste into box number 2 and click that button. The activation code will unlock the plugin for 7 days. So if you're wanting to do this as a trial, you're basically just downloading that plugin and running it for 7 days in a low resolution mode. And the reason why we say low resolution is because we've had to put a choke on the file size of 1200 pixels because we had some unsavory characters who were basically just bypassing our system by using our 7-day fully unrestricted high resolution trial and just using a different email address each time, and therefore never paying for the product, just using it as and when they had a job to print. So we've had to put a choke on it. We don't use watermarks because it would affect the imagery, and I think it's important when you're looking at an image for color that you can see it correctly, and a watermark slapped all the way through would not be any good. So when you get your activation code, put it in here and click the send button. Do check your email spam folder if you haven't received it in your main inbox, because it will be in your spam folder. When it unlocks, you will then see the interface as so. If you do have a license code after you've done step 1 and 2, put your code in here and unlock it. So it's really simple. As long as you do step 1, send, step 2, send, step 3, send, the plugin will unlock and work correctly. If you don't do it correctly and you just jump in here and put your serial number, it won't set your account up. And therefore, the next day when you come back to the plugin, it will back in this stage here and it won't have remembered anything that you've done because there's no account to link it to. Okay, so with that in mind, let's get into the system. So as you can see here, we have 3 different color options. We have an image that can be separated for neon pink, neon yellow, neon cyan. Not all devices have a neon cyan, but for those that do, you can obviously output for the neon cyan as well. Neon cyan could be used in things like offset printing, flexo. There's also the Xerox Versant, which is a small cut sheet device that has a neon cyan, neon magenta, which is basically a pink, and a yellow and a black separation. So we can use Touch7 with that machine. The other key shortcuts here, if you've got an image that's got both the neon yellow and pink content in it, you can just press it, it'll do both separations at once. It's just to speed up your workflow. And then SCR is a function that was developed by us it's a little bit like UCR, undercolor removal. It takes color from this image, removes color from it to be replaced by the spot color. So it's very clever what it does. It's unique to Touch7 and it's developed specifically for separating extended gamma inks. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to press the pink button to generate, I've already worked on this file this morning. Surprise, surprise, it's probably my 3rd attempt at making this video today. Okay, so we press the button and it's generated a pink separation. As you can see here, we have the original image and we've got a pink that's now sat on the top. Looking great, looks really nice. That is the pink separation. It is a mathematical calculation, so it's going through and pulling out pink pixels. So you can see underneath here, you've got this shading underneath this bunch of flowers on that paper. That's basically got pink content in it, and the lips have got pink content. So it will pick out pink pixels throughout the image. So the first thing that we say is get rid of things that you don't want to be come out as pink. So one of the top tips that we use is a tool called the Dodge tool in Photoshop. It is a standard Photoshop tool. It's nothing unique to us. So I'm going to set it to highlights. I usually set mine to about 30%, and then I can just basically rub over things, anything that I don't want. So in this instance, I'm just going to focus on the jacket and the flowers. Now, if you notice how my brush is actually going over some of these areas, but it's only picking out the highlight area because I've set it to highlight. So any of this darker mid-tone to shadow area is not going to be affected. So I can actually be quite quick, don't have to be fully accurate when I'm doing my separation. And that's one of the things about neon separations like this. It's quite forgiving. You know, even if you make a slight little error, it doesn't really make any difference. But the reason I'm showing you this is that you're paying for fifth color. You have to pay for it. So, you know, it's an extra color, it's an extra printing plate. So the more ink you're using, the more expensive it's going to be. So from an ink calculation purpose, if you only put in the ink where you want it, you're going to save ink. Now, this is very, very important when we compete against other companies that are trying to do this sort of work through a profile. First of all, a profile is on the press. It means it's applying it to basically your job information. You have no control as a designer over that process. It basically will, it's literally like taking a magenta separation and putting a magenta separation on top of your image and hitting it with a pink. Now that's going to affect everything from your shadows, it's going to put it into your grey balance, it's going to put it into your skin tones, and ultimately you can make an image look pretty nasty. And again, it takes away all the creative control from a designer. What we're giving you here is the creative freedom to do what you want to do. Now from here, you can see at the moment this is looking okay. So we have the original image there, switch on the pink, and I think it's looking quite nice. But here's the thing, that image there at the moment is wrong. It's not going to come out looking like that. I'm just going to demonstrate how I know this. So I'm just going to zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. If I take this spot color and add that, or select the RGB at the same time and go to this little flyout menu and go to merge spot channel, notice a massive change in that color. So that was before I merged it. So we have the original image and the spot color, which I thought looks nice. I designed it like that. You know, I think that if I print this out, it's going to look like that. Well, it's not, because when it prints out, it's going to look like that. And that's because what most people don't have set correctly in Photoshop is more of an advanced setting. So I'm just going to teach you that now. Go to the edit menu, go down to color settings, and over here we've got something in the advanced controls called desaturate monitor colors. And it's really perfect for things like neon, because it's all about basically desaturating colors that are out of the gamut of a normal monitor. So it actually tells you something about it inside there. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to switch on desaturate monitor colors. Now at the moment it's desaturated far too much. I think, you know, literally 1% will be enough. And that is going to give you a pretty good kind of, as close as you're going to really get visually on the screen for neon working. So now if I was to merge that in, we won't get as much of a massive shift. You'll see a little shift in colour because you cannot see fluorescent inks on a screen. So there's always going to be a slight difference, but compared to where we were before, it's more realistic to what the print will come out like. So now that I know that I have my pink separation, the other thing to bear in mind, first of all, if you're not seeing this channel in colour, it's because in Photoshop, go to your preferences, go to interface, show channels in colour. So I'll just switch that off to show you. It basically means that your separations, you look at it in grayscale. Now my preferred working is in grayscale like this, because I can see details much better in grayscale than I can when it's in pink, but it's a subjective thing, how you want to design. I'm just going to switch that back over because I want to demonstrate the assignment of an ink value to your spot channel. Okay, so let's just go back to there. Okay, so what we also have available with Touch7 is a spot color palette, and that spot color palette, well, I say spot color, it's a swatch palette, which has all our LAB values for our press partners that we work with. So just go to swatches, and basically, if you've not already done so, download it from the website. We'll be adding this and updating it periodically, so anytime we get new partners added to it, we will add more ink values. And just to give you an example, everybody uses slightly different colours. So if you look at Xerox, for example, Xerox has a fluorescent pink on their Iridescent press, which is a high-end production printing device. It's probably a couple of $100,000 for that machine. The pink is like a bubblegum pink, whereas they have this Xerox Versant, which is a smaller cut sheet device. As I mentioned earlier, it has neon cyan, neon magenta-ish pink, and a yellow. They have these colours here, and you can see that that colour is much different to this pink. Okay, and then we have things like Ricoh's got their own pink, HP's got two different pinks. So all of those inks are all very different. So let's just focus today on Xerox. I'm going to use this as a demonstration. So what we need to do is assign that spot colour over to the correct value for the press, so we can see it correctly on the screen. Double click it, brings up the spot colour channel options, and this is standard Photoshop stuff. Click on the little colour box to bring up the colour picker. And now we're going to assign that over to the ink on the press. So we've assigned that over to the Xerox Iridescent pink just by clicking that colour box. So it picks up the LAB value. So you can see there's a big difference if I switch between these. I could assign it to a blue, a green, whatever colour. So you can see that the Touch7 separation is picking up the spot colour from that palette. So we're going to assign it to the Xerox Iridescent. Click on OK, click on OK. So now I've got my design looking more true to life. Like if I output this now, as it is, that's more likely what's going to happen. It's going to look more like that. So we've got the original image is untouched at this stage, just the original raw image with a spot colour over the top. So that's overprinting on top of it. Now that is one way of working. You can increase the saturation and the depth of the colour by overprinting the pink on top of the image. Now the other thing to be aware of, this pink here is not a solid pink. And that's because in Photoshop, when you're working with an original colour from an image, that colour is based on what's in the image to start with. We can only pull out the colour data that's originally there. Now I'm just going to switch this back to grayscale mode so you can see this a bit better. So if we look at the colour information, let's just get the information box. And I put my cursor over here, you can see that in here it's no more than about 40 to 50% in the darkest areas. And some of the lightest areas are going down to like 20-30%. So there's tonality inside that image. But that means that if in this darkest area it's only 45%, it's only going to print 45% pink. Okay, so it's never going to come out that full shocking pink if you don't make it full. So what you can do here is you can open up your levels, and you can see here that we've got the start of the histogram. So this peak here is really the darkest area. So as I pointed out there, it's about 45%, which is roughly about there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this point here, which is the shadow point. I'm going to slide it all the way over to the start of that histogram. And you can push more pink into that image. Now let's do that again, but this time in colour, so you can see how it's going to affect the image. So we're going to change the interface back over, and I apologise for switching backwards and forwards, but it's important to show you how all this works so you understand fully. So if I've now got everything switched on and I open up my levels and I push this up, you can see what it's doing to that image. So now as an overprinting pink, you can really push more pink into the image and make it a little bit shocking. Now I'm not going to do it today, I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm just going to actually slide it to about here so it's more of a natural start and end point. But that's the great thing about this tool, is you have the freedom to decide how much of that colour is changed and where it's changed. Now I've decided that I'm happy with this as it is. I'm going to send that off to print or put it into a page layout program, and that'll be done. So that's the basics behind how the system works. I'm just going to go right back to the beginning, delete that separation, and show you the speed of how this works without the full explanation. So all you do, open up the thing, do a pink separation, assign it across to the ink on your press. You could actually set up an action set, like an F key, just to say, press F1 and it automatically assigns it to the correct ink value for you if you want to speed it up for you. I've assigned the pink. If I wanted to, I can just boost it if I want to. I can airbrush little things out if I so choose to do so, blah, 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 and boom, I finished my image, save the file. So it's a very quick working process. Okay, that's overprinting information on top of the original image. The next image I'm going to show you is basically using the SCR tool. So what we're going to do again today, we're going to pull out and work with that pink separation again for Xerox. Keep it all familiar for this particular tutorial. Click the pink button. Now if we look here, this is the information that's found inside that image. So again, we're going to do a little bit of retouching, but I want to just first of all demonstrate something. Quite often we get a question saying, well, why can't I just use the magenta channel for my pink? So I'll demonstrate that now. I'm going to go CMYK mode. I'm going to take that, select all and copy. And let's paste that on top of the pink. So at the moment, you're seeing my image separated with my separation from my plugin. Now I'm just going to paste that magenta channel into that pink. That's why you don't use the magenta channel, because if you use the magenta channel, it's in everything. You know, like I said before, you've got it in the woodwork, you've got it in shadows, so like in the eyeballs, in the skin tones, it's in everything. Magenta predominantly is one of the worst colors to pick out from an image. So even by trying to fine tune a profile to try and target just specific areas, it's quite crude. Whereas what we're doing here is a mathematical calculation inside Photoshop. So I've got my pink separation there. I'm just going to go through, I'm just going to tease out these areas. Just to highlight this as well, there is some pink pixels going to be seen in here because you always get slight highlight edge. You know, for example, up here, if I zoom right in, you can see all these little pinky purple pixels. Well, that's what our plugin's finding because it's a mathematical calculation. So again, use those little tools just to rub over things. Sometimes you have to click and do it a couple of times to really airbrush it out. Like I said, it's quite forgiving. You can just basically decide what areas you want to use. So I'm going to get rid of the lips. I'm going to leave a little bit of that stuff in the face. And again, it's up to you how much and how far you want to take this. Okay, so I've got my pink separation over the top. I need to assign it to the ink value on the press. So I'm going to pull out that pink separation for the iridescence. I think it looks quite nice as it is, but we're going to use the SCR tool. So what the SCR tool does is basically says, take this spot color that's been created and remove it from the image. But this is why you have to use the LAB value, because you want to make sure you're using the correct ink value from the machine. So press that button, and now it's actually gone back to how it originally looked. But if we turn off that spot color, you'll see that color has been removed from the image to be replaced by that pink. But the good thing about this, and let me just demonstrate, if I merge all this back together again, so I'm doing the same thing, I've taken the RGB plus that spot color, I'm going to merge it back into the spot color here. If I now go right back to the very beginning of my original image, and let me just zoom in on this so you can see, and I click that Guitar Girl image here, that's going to take me right back to the original. Make sure you'll be watching this image. Absolutely no difference. So what my plugin's done there is it's basically gone all the way, taken out the image, basically subtracted the color to be replaced by that spot color, but it now matches the original perfectly. Now that's great if I want to match the color exactly as it is, but that pink's not really a shocking pink, it's quite pale, but it's true to life. It's showing me color removed, that's my pink separation, but now if I use my levels, I can boost up my pink, and now I've actually got more of a bubblegum pink, so it's more of a pure pink. It's not overprinting the image, so it's not going deeper and more saturated. And that is how you do color separations correctly, something you cannot do with a profile. So an advantage of our system is we give the creativity to the designer. You can basically decide what you want to be separated into neon. You can basically move your sliders up and down to put more neon color into the image, give it more pop. And also, like I said, it's that introduction tool inside there. And that ability to be able to remove color from the image to be compensated by the spot color. Now, there are more things you can do, more advanced things you can do with this. For example, you could take an image that is predominantly orange and separate that using a pink channel. So go to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to see tutorial videos on how to do that. That's using our ECG plugin in combination with this. But for today, that is just the overall basics of how the system works. Two options, an image printed with the pink as an overprinting separation, or an image that's been separated using the SCR tool. Okay, so if you have any questions, please do reach out to us at support@touch7.co. Please do check the new website out. We've updated quite a lot of features inside there, and we will be predominantly adding more things as we go along. But like I say, if you have any questions, reach out. Okay, thank you. Have a great day.